everyone, and welcome to Word on the Street. My name is Cyrilda Summers McGee, and I am the founder and CEO of Workplace Change, which is a human resources, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and change management firm located predominantly in the Pacific Northwest. Now let's get to some of these topics. Word on the street is that sometimes it's not discrimination. Sometimes they just don't like you. Let's get to it. All right, gang. Now, I know that what I'm about to say is a little bit controversial. So controversial that I didn't know if I was actually going to shoot this video. But I think it's important that we have this discussion as a community. All right? I get pulled into situations where folks say, hey, this is happening to me because I'm Black. This is happening to me because I'm transgender or non-binary. This is happening to me because I'm Latino. It might be happening to you for those reasons. And Lord knows I've gone in and done some investigations and identified that this is systemic disparities, systemic inequities, systemic unfairnesses, etc. But then there are times where I go into an organization, especially when there's a one-to-one conflict, right? Not talking about the entire system, but talking about the relationship that Cyrilda has with person X, right? And I'll walk in and I'll have a conversation with the human resources person or whoever reached out to us to provide them with a third party analysis of what's happening between these individual people. And I start to kind of peel back the layers and talk to different people and figure out what's going on. And quite frankly, the issue is not around race. More times than not, when it's a one-to-one situation, it's less about race or less about gender. It's more about personalities, quite frankly. I tell people the biggest area of tension in the workplace is between the introvert and the extrovert. And the extrovert has no idea. They're just living their best lives, right? Where the introvert is like, you're taking all of the, all sizzle, no steak. I don't like you. It's less about the aesthetic or, right, the fact that you all kind of live life differently. It's more about the experience that you are having with one another. So I'll use myself as an example. I have been in situations where I know for a fact that I'm being targeted because of my race and being the first Black person to lead this enterprise, right? And then there are other times where, when I actually think back about the interactions I was having with the person, it wasn't about my race. We were different races, right? And different genders. But it was less about the different races and the different genders and more about interpersonally, we communicated differently. So let me give you the illustrations of the two where it was interpersonal. Me and this colleague, right, we're peers. We come into meetings and this person, I watch them just kind of have this kind of snarky demeanor, just kind of rude, curt communication style with a variety of people and also with me. But I don't care what kind of communication you have with our other peers. I care about how you talking to Cyrilda, right? So now, because you have, this bite to your communication style, I feel like I need to keep that same energy, right? I feel like I need to give it the same way I'm receiving it. So now we are kind of tit-tit-tit-tit-ting at one another. I see this happen a lot in the workplace, right? Me and this person isn't being curt just to me. They're basically curt to everybody. Now, other people don't have an issue with it, but I've got an issue with it because culturally, communication is important. So we have some cultural differences, but the crux of the issue is not along race or culture. It's about how I need to be treated by another individual. And if I'm not treated that way, I'm going to give you this negative energy back. Okay, now that's an interpersonal example. Let me show you a time where I know that I was treated disparately based on race. I worked for an organization where I got audited 15 times in about 18 months, okay? Audited by the entire organization. I'm like, Lord, number one, an audit is not fun, right? It's actually very stress-inducing. It's anxiety provoking because you never know what they're looking for and how they're gonna do a gotcha on you. I went to the department, I found someone there, and I asked them, hey, who all is being audited? Like, y'all doing a lot of audits. Are y'all auditing all the departments? This is a 15,000 person shop. Like, are you auditing everyone? They're like, we haven't audited any other department except for yours. What are y'all looking for? Right? Now, I'm stressed. Me and the person who is in charge of the audits, we're not seeing eye to eye. They are using the entire all of the force of their department against me. They didn't feel like I was qualified for the job. They're like the previous lady who was in the job, right? I'm paying attention to all these things. No one else is being audited. They didn't want me to have the job. They didn't think I was qualified for the job. They've made these comments about my age. These are things that illustrate to me that there is something else that's happening. This is not interpersonal. This is a person who has a problem with my presence. My identity is some kind of affront to their humanity. Do you see the difference? There is a difference. So sometimes what's happening in the workplace is not that they're trying to discriminate against you or they're creating a hostile environment for you based on your race. Sometimes they just don't like you. That doesn't mean they get to get away with treating you poorly. That's not what I'm saying. But we should keep the race, gender conversations focused on race, gender matters, because if not, it gets diluted and we start to have a conversation about, I'm not racist, right? And instead of us talking about how your behavior is making me feel. So before we go into the kind of the racism, sexism conversation, let's just be reflective about how we're being treated and what we want to see stop, right? Let's focus on the behavior. Let's focus on how we want the outcome to change. I want to stop feeling this way when I show up in the workplace. So I don't need to call you racist. I don't need to call you sexist. I need to say, hey, when you did that thing yesterday, that didn't work for me. I'd like for that to stop and consistently bring it forward every single time that it happens. You can bring those concerns to human resources. You can bring those concerns to a higher level manager. You can bring those concerns, ideally, directly to the person who's making you feel that way. But before we start into the kind of categorizing into this area that is very loaded and that shuts the conversation down, we got to just think about, is it an interpersonal thing? And can we actually call the behavior what it is? You're hurting my feelings. You're making me stressed out. I don't like when this thing is happening, versus focusing on kind of the racism, the sexism. I think it's going to get us further and stop you from experiencing the negativity of the behavior that you're enduring. Okay? So word on the street is that sometimes it's not discrimination. Not all the times, but sometimes they just don't like you. And we need to focus on that piece of the conversation, right? All right. Thanks for watching, y'all.